Hello everybody, my name is Huanghuan from China. I seek Cultural Center. I will be 30 years old on June 23rd this year. I truly feel honored and blessed to have directly showing this video on the PH conference with all of you. I was diagnosed as idiopathic pulmonary arterial hypertension in 2005 when I was 23 years old. After fighting with this disease for 7 years, I had double lung transplant last year. Now 6 months has passed. I'm able to jump and run around, climb upstairs and do everything I like. And now the most enjoyable part of my life is to work in the ISIC Cultural Center, since it is the only NGO in China supporting people affected by pulmonary hypertension and invisible disability. Though being diagnosed in 2005, I've lived with breathlessness and fainting for years. As a teenage girl, I was misdiagnosed as asthma. PE classes and climbing stairs was always a challenge for me. Luckily, I completed my degree in English and found a job in a state-owned enterprises and worked as a project manager for a few years. But to my surprise, after my diagnosis, I was mocked by my employers for telling them that I have a fatal disease because they don't think being slow was a life-threatening condition. So they still ask me to travel with them for business just with my oxygen equipment. At that time, I even have no regular treatment, for there is no target medicine in Chinese market. Later in 2006, as my disease progressed, I fell into a deadly coma in office and was sent to the hospital by an ambulance. Luckily, at that critical moment, after about 1 year's waiting, my medications became available. But I was told to front all the costs by myself, since orphan drugs are not covered by medical insurance and there is even no definition in China for rare disease. To make matters worse, shortly after I regained my consciousness, I was fired by the company. 1 year before I was diagnosed, I was awarded as the most valuable employee, but 1 month after the coma, I was rendered useless. At that moment, my company really believed that pH can kill. After spending all my savings on pH medicines, I was hired by another company that totally unaware of my illness. From then on, I've lived a double life. During the day, I make excuses to avoid working or hanging out with my colleagues, constantly declining their invitations for dinners and parties. But in the evening, I was cared for by my mother. I know if my pH came out in the open, I would lose my job. Since 2009, I've hoped to start non-governmental organization, but this decision proved to be difficult. If I had publicized my condition and ventured in NGO operation, I'll have to invest funds, quit my job, and living on my own saving account. After facing great difficulty in NGO registration, strict government administration, and skyrocketing costs of medicine, I waited to move forward until 2010. That year, I met Director Li, an independent filmmaker. She showed great interest in my experience in fighting with the disease, but different from other media and journalists, she has spent half a year to follow my life and understand my disease. Later, she produced a trailer called Slow Walker to apply for the Sundance Documentary Fund. And by chance, this trailer was viewed by an NGO director, Mr. Zhang Wei. He met me face in face and gave me a lot of instructions on how to organize an NGO in China for PH patients. So finally, I decided to invite directly to work with me as the co-founder of ISIC. With her help, we finally co-founded ISIC Cultural Center. on June 21st, 2011, and today is our first anniversary. We're very proud to share our story here with all of you. Until now, we have produced several videos for PH patients in China, and one of them saved my life. That is videos about lens transplant. I remembered just a few months after we set up, I think one patient, Wang Yue, called us saying that she was cured of the disease by double lens transplant. At that time, I dared not to believe this news, because in our man's PH is incurable and lens transplant is not a mature technology, especially in China. But directly rushed to the hospital, filmed and collected a complete set of materials about lens transplant, and she produced a video in a very short time and shared it with many PH patients. After watching this video, I was far more surprised to see Wang Yue as a totally healthy girl who can climb the Great Wall and dive in the deep sea. Even though I haven't thought of taking this high-risky operation myself, until November 2011, my condition was deteriorated and the trial medication proved to be ineffective. So I decided to fly to Wuxi for assessment. Luckily again, after a few days waiting, I've got a donor of my type, and Dr. Jing Yuchen from Wuxi People's Hospital has done a successful transplant for me and regained my new life. From those videos we have made, patients are able to learn how to live with PH from other patient stories and learn the latest treatment and news about PH. We do hope in the near future we could work with PH associations all over the world for the patients' equal rights. Thank you all.